to discuss with some of my preliminary data and experiments about the immune correlate of consciousness. This we have combined with also some of the psychological tests and have done some experiments with the subjects and more precisely with the practitioners of meditation who is practicing Surat Shabd Yoga. So to begin with, I would like to give you the concept of immune correlate, because it's slightly new in the sense to combine with the meditational effect. So I would provide the anatomical basis, the cellular basis, and the molecular basis, and then will follow some of the experiments which have been done at the Albagh Educational Institute, taking the honorable practitioners who is doing meditation over more than 40 to 45 years. So the question arises that does the state of consciousness affect the immune system? We all know and we have been enough knowledge that immune system is activated in the presence of infections. But does the state of consciousness affect the immune system? Can one measure the correlates of consciousness in such defined states? If so, how? This is the hypothesis we created, that in brain, there is a signal processing and the information processing, which is done by the descending and the ascending tracts. And these ascending and descending tracts move along through corticothalamic, which is the cerebral cortex and the thalamus, the thalamocortical and the reticulothalamic. It seems a jargon who has not studied in detail the anatomy of the brain, but to simplify for the students who have not studied in detail, these are the tracts through the anatomical structures in the brain. So for example, cortex, thalamus or reticular formation, which is in the brainstem tegmentum. Now, through these tracts, what happens is that it goes through the several neurons, which are the key players to propagate or to transfer these signals. Now there could be several kinds of neurons. So some of the neurons are, for example, GABAergic and cholinergic, glutamergic, NMDA, and these all channels operate the signals through the ion channels in their membrane. Ion channels are nothing but like a dynamic holes in the membrane of the cells. Now then, they can either inactivate the neuron or activate the neuron. That means either they can depolarize, which means the activation of a neuron, or hyperpolarize, which means the inactivation of the neuron. During this process, this affects the physiological state of the system. Now, if you have the inactivation of the neuron, it can have the decreased immunoglobulin levels. Now, this immunoglobulin is a kind of a manifestation of the immune system. Particularly, I have been talking about the IgAs because we will be measuring, or our experimental design would be saliva, a non-invasive method, and it is rich in IgA. It is a kind of immunoglobulin which is the end point of an immune response. Then in the case of activation of the neuron, you can have it is predicted, and which we found that there will be an increase of IgA levels. So what is the anatomical basis of such an immune correlate? There are certain, we all know that brain is encased And we all say that no drug, no molecule can access the brain because it is impermeable to most of them. And this is because of the blood-brain barrier. Now this blood-brain barrier constitutes the absolute barrier, but inside the blood-brain barrier, you have certain resident immune active cells, and which populates this niche in the early embryonic development and are self-maintained throughout the life. Another important anatomical structure is the meninges. Meninges is the covering of the brain. Meninges by word means membranes. So essentially the brain is covered with the membranous structures and immunologically active boundary of the central nervous system and surround the surfaces of the brain and spinal cord. Subarachnoid space, which is one of the layers of these membranes, located between the arachnoid matter and the pia mater of the brain meninges or the brain membranes, is filled with cerebrospinal fluid and at the steady state, and is also populated by the myeloid cells of the prenatal origin and by another immune active cells which are called the T lymphoid cells. Another anatomical structure which is called the choroid plexus is the site for the bidirectional neuroimmune communication. This choroid plexus is located in the third, fourth and lateral ventricles. Just to define what are these ventricles are, these are pools of cerebrospinal fluid. Every hour, 150 ml of cerebrospinal fluid is exchanged. Total of 5 liters of cerebrospinal fluid is required for the brain. So these choroid plexus is also the site where the cerebrospinal fluid is synthesized. Choroidal plexus is composed of blood capillaries with fenestrated endothelial walls enclosed by a monolayer of epithelial cells which are interconnected by tight junctions. So the choroid plexus is assumed as a gate for immune trafficking. The choroid plexus produces and controls the distribution of cerebrospinal fluid. Therefore, entering the leukocytes, which could use the cerebrospinal fluid flow to become distributed till entire the central nervous system, which includes the brain and the spinal cord. The barrier function at the choroid plexus is established by the epithelial cells and not by the endothelial cells. This is very important because this way it only creates the selective gateway which ensures the neuroimmune communication. The choroid plexus epithelium constitutively expresses trafficking molecules needed for the immune cell migration. The expression levels of these trafficking molecules changes in response to immunological signals in the brain. I will elaborate on these signals in the brain. Then the resident immune cells present in the choroid plexus, including of the stroma, include macrophages, dendritic cells and all other immune active cells. These are some of the immune players in the immune system. What controls the choroid plexus gateway? Because since it is a selective gateway, not everything can pass through. So the first, coming from the central nervous system, the form of a danger signal such as a tumor necrosis factor. So the immune system, as it is established, protects us from all the dangers, which are the causes of our anomalies in our system. The second is the interferon gamma signaling level, which also depends upon the state of local immunity. And this was ensured by the Th1 and Th2 CD4 memory cells and the all immune processes. I'm not going to elaborate this. The third basis for the immune correlate is the cellular. That means there are several immune active cells in the central nervous system parenchyma. The brain and spinal cord parenchyma are populated with myeloid cells and the microglia, which comes in the early embryonic development. The immunological activity of the microglial cells that associates with the several factors listed as macrophage colony-stimulating factor, GSCSF, LPS, IL-10. This seems to be an abbreviated jargon, but actually there are several factors which plays the crucial role for the optimal activation of the immune system. The molecular basis, now the third parameter, which includes the molecules in the brain and the axis operating in the brain, which includes several key regions. One of the major axes is the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, which activates several hormones from the release of several hormones from the hypothalamus. For instance, the stress releases corticotropin releasing hormone. This CRF stimulates the pituitary, and which in turn secretes the glucocorticoid, and they all activate then the immune factors including IL-1, IL-2, IL-6, interferon, beta, gamma, and so on and so forth, which has been proved altogether. These lymphocytes also express in turn, this was secreted from the neuroendocrine axis towards the immune system. Now the vice versa is also true. The lymphocytes also involve several hormones like cortisol, gonadotropin, and melatonin, and I will not go into the details, but what I want to express here is it is the bilateral communication between the neural system and the immune activation. Now, the sympathetic postganglionic fibers which are present in both the primary and the lymphoid organs through the innervations of the nerve fibers. So one can imagine there is a kind of a network of the nerves which kind of interact with the immune system and the neuroendocrine system. So, for example, noradrenaline, an important hormone, has immune activity which releases from the sympathetic nerve ends in the lymphoid organs. So there is a neuroendocrine immune crosstalk, and this is an example of increasingly recognized phenomenon whereby simultaneously signaling via hormone and cytokine receptors on the T cells result in the downstream interaction of receptor signaling pathways. It also, neuroendocrine regulation also decides about the type of immune response. So it also is involved in the regulation. Now coming to my experiments, after having a sound background that how the neural correlates and the immune correlates can be important to understand the effect of meditation, because consciousness cannot be measured. It can only be indirectly observed through some correlate. So Davidson, long time back in 2003, there was reports that there is a relationship between meditation and immune status by measuring the titers of anti-influenza antibodies. But the problem with his studies were the inconsistency in environment of subjects. Because again, the subjects were subjected to meditation for 15 to 30 minutes, and then they were analyzed for the titers. The second was that their method relied on the acquired immunity rather than the innate immunity. Innate immunity is the instant immune system activation, whereas the acquired immunity requires several days to mount the immunity. So we correlated and established the bilateral communication between central nervous system and immune system on the basis of IgA determination in saliva. Secondly, and corroborated by the psychological test. The determination of IgA is accomplished by collecting the saliva of subjects by non-invasive method. IgA levels are then studied against the scores of psychological test of the same subjects, which in turn reflect the effect of meditation on the individual subject. Why IgA, salivary IgA, may be a good indicator of the immune status. IgA abounds in fluids excreted by mucosal surfaces which are sensitive to signaling molecules. Saliva is the most convenient fluid to sample and is readily obtainable. The procedure for sample collecting is non-invasive and non-disruptive. A self-structured psychological test was made on the same pattern as the spiritual well-being scale, SWBS, referred to as Ellison 2002, but it consisted of 20 items which assess religious well-being, one's perception and feeling of God, realistic acceptance of God, existential well-being, meaning and purpose of life, spiritual maturity and quality of life. This I am very thankful to Professor Shri Ramamurthy ji, who has actually devised this questionnaire for our psychological test. Respondents rate each item on 5-point scale. 1 definitely no, 2 no, 3 maybe, 4 yes, and 5 definitely yes. There were 4 subjects which were designed. The pre-initiates of the tradition of Surat Shabd Yoga, subjects were taught the initial meditational technique of Surat Shabd Yoga. Initiates of the tradition of Surat Shabd Yoga, subjects who practice the meditational techniques of Surat Shabd Yoga regularly above 50 years of age. Initiates of tradition of Surat Shabd Yoga, subjects who practice the meditational technique of Surat Shabd Yoga regularly below 50. And neither of the above, the subjects who know very little about the meditation. The basis of experimental design was that no measurements are made during meditation. No external stimulus is given during meditation. Internal spiritual stimulus such as articulation of the holy name is used. Sample of the subject is collected in the form of saliva, a non-invasive technique. The saliva is collected at multiple time points and for several days from the same subjects. We determine the immune measurement in terms of titer values. So we have determined the titer values of salivary IgA, and we found the highest in the initiates above age 50 and the lowest neither, which do not have any experience with the meditation. The saliva was collected following the protocol published by Salimetrics. The guidelines is prescribed, followed by all the subjects. We also determined the scattering in the measurement, and to ensure the variability in the measurement, we took from the same subjects for four consecutive days. Then we have the correlation with the psychological test between the salivary IgA and psychological test, and we establish from these results that along with the neural correlate, we could also have the immune correlate, because the effect of meditation could be correlated with the immune status of the individual subject. I duly acknowledge Professor P. Shiramurthy, Dr. Vinita Mathur from the Theology Department, Dr. Sandeep Paul, and Neha Sharma, who was the student who assisted in the experiments. I bow low in lotus feet of Supreme Father for his unbounded grace and guidance. Thank you.